If you want to build an agent harness for your business and automate a lot of workflows, you need an operating system. And if you're not sure what an operating system is, that's what this video is for. In this video, you will learn what an operating system is, why it's important to an agent harness, what it can do, the potentials that it has, and how to build one for your business that is totally customizable for what the preferences are that you need. This is part 1 of an 8-part series that I am making, which is going to be breaking down how I use agent harnesses, how any business model can use them and should be using them. And it's a lot of insight into the practicalities of how I implement for clients, which is through my business Common House. I'm starting off part 1 with the operating system because the operating system is the most important part of an agent harness. And you may be asking, what is an operating system? An operating system is essentially everything an agent harness needs to do what you want it to do, in a very easy way to say it. So if you're thinking about ChatGPT, okay, that's right here, this one giant chat. ChatGPT or Claude cannot do what an agent harness can do built on the correct operating system. One giant chat, if you just pull up ChatGPT on your phone or on your computer and you type in, what meetings do I have in my calendar today? It is not going to be able to do that. With an OS, you can give it the plugins necessary, so your Google Calendar or your Microsoft Outlook. And then you can also give it criterias based off of the context of the situation. What I mean by that is if you ask that plainly, but you have 2 calendar setups, your personal and then your work, ChatGPT might not know what to do, but an agent harness will know what to do because you're providing it context and the files will guide it along the way. So giant chat is not correct because one session in a regular ChatGPT does not talk to the next session. They don't remember anything. They don't communicate. Think of an agent harness totally different though. An agent is like an actual employee that lives and breathes for your business. So it remembers what it did yesterday and it's going to be remembering what it's doing in the moment or today. All of this is because of the OS that you're going to build. To start off, an OS needs a business brain. This business brain is going to be very different for every single different person that watches this video. Whatever your business is, if it's a landscaping company, if it's an e-commerce brand, if it's a medical facility, whatever, you're going to have different types of use cases with this brain. You're going to have different tonality. You're going to have different pricing structures and pricing models. You're going to have different guidelines of how things are done. If you can imagine, if you're in the medical space, there's a lot of procedures that need to be in place for HIPAA compliant type of things. With a e-commerce brand, it's a little bit more lenient and social media might be a much heavier presence versus other type of business models. So you can imagine this is going to be different. And everything that your business has for a competitive advantage, that is going to live here in the business brain. The source library are the files for the business brain. Let's say you're a SaaS company, sort of like HubSpot. If we go to HubSpot right now, they sell multiple different tools. If you look at their products, they have their marketing hub, their sales hub, their service hub, content hub, data hub, revenue hub, etc. And all of these are based on their pricing models. You can get it for enterprise or get only certain bits of pieces of it. But each one is its own product within the greater SaaS of HubSpot. Going back to our board, the source library is very important here because every file that the business brain reads off of is what's going to educate it on the necessary things. So if we have the marketing hub and the sales hub, and we don't upload the correct product guidelines, how they work, what's so different about them into the source library, the business brain is not going to really know the difference between the two. So the source library is everything that is like tangible evidence, proof, education, so the business brain kind of makes sense. They connect. And then the third thing is the workflows, which is arguably the most important piece on here. The workflows are going to operate off of these 2 things right here. A workflow is going to vary for every business, but this is what makes an agent harness different. For my business, I have like 45 different workflows that are being automated. Workflows are essentially what an actual employee you would hire would be doing on their day-to-day job. If you are posting on social media and you hire a social media intern or a specialist, they are are going to be making content calendars, making the actual content themselves, posting the content, getting the right, captions with SEO, and then they're also going to be tracking performance. That right there is a large workflow. Agent harnesses can do these workflows, and that is all credible to how you develop business brain and source library. If you are posting social media posts and you don't have a brand guidelines of color, tonality, the brand voice, how are you supposed to keep things consistent when you're posting on TikTok and Instagram? You won't. That's why you need these things to fall in place, so the workflow will be much more custom tailored to how your business is. And this right here is going to probably be its own part in the greater series that we're developing. So I'm not going to spend too much time here, but this really is the bread and butter of an agent harness. Secondly, we're going to have approval gates. I don't see approval gates get talked about enough in the space of agent harnesses, to be honest, but they're so critical. I think automation is fantastic, but only to an extent. I do believe there is a world where there needs to be a layer of human review and approval. For example, if you have a lead gen workflow coming in where it's checking your leads that are coming in your emails and it's drafting up actual responses to them, it's logging them in the CRM automatically. So a workflow I install for clients all the time, but that workflow might need an approval gate right before it sends the email. It can draft it, it can put them in the CRM, it can do all the things necessary, do research on the lead, everything, but you should be the one reading what that email is going to look like when it goes out, because it's client facing, and because of that, AI can make mistakes. It might pull the wrong company, so it might have wrong information altogether on it, or it just might need critiquing based on how you want to do it. That needs your layer, and that's why we have approval gates in place of a lot of these workflows. Automations are similar to workflows, but think of these simple automations. So going back to like the lead gen portion, I have something that checks my email every single 5 minutes for new emails, which would be like essentially lead gens or people just emailing us. That is a simple automation. Automations can be used for performance. Back to the social media example, you should have automations every single day checking the difference from the prior 24 hours and how performance changed across your whole entire Instagram account, your TikTok account. So you could see, you might see a video from 2 weeks ago that all of a sudden is getting crazy amount of traction. This automation will catch that. You can learn from it, train the model on why that video is doing so well, and hopefully produce better output similar to this. So you could think these are really the simple automations that we want an agent harness to work off of, but we need to make sure it has the correct context, which goes back to all the original portions over here. The proof portion is very important because the receipts of things that are done need to be put in place. Now, the social media example, every time that workflow would go and post an actual Instagram post or a TikTok video, you want it to log a simple little receipt that just says, I posted this image with, the file name or this video with the timestamp and date, and you can add anything else you need into it. That way, if you go to Instagram and you see it posted the wrong image, you can go back to the receipt, see why it made a mistake, and fix it. A lot of times we install proofs for our clients because it's a good way for us to check what's going wrong when it started, because a lot of times that's the biggest issue, is when the issue started, and you can figure that out through the proofs. I have proofs and audits together because I also set up recurring audits on this OS, because you can imagine this OS can be freaking massive. I know mine has over 1,000 files inside of it. And if you're not careful, you might have old pricing guidelines from a couple years ago with new pricing guidelines, and that might get confusing if your agent is going to pull the pricing and it accidentally pulls the old one. Well, if we have audits in place, that won't exist anymore. So having daily, weekly, and monthly audits is very important. Those are automations and workflows that I install a lot for clients, and they go a long way for your OS. Now, you may be asking me, okay, I understand what an operating system is, but how do I install one? So first things first, you're gonna need some sort of top-end tool like Claude Code or Codex. Now, I recommend at the time of this video right now, I think Opus 4.8, which is the latest Opus model, is the best repo worker. It's the best content writer in my opinion. And because of that, when you're building out these files that these agents run off of, you want the best of the best building them. And I will say, you need to do human review on every file that gets created. You will find if you're not doing that, things will slip through the cracks. It makes little mistakes, adds random lines that it should not be adding in these files. And it goes a long way because agents will read all of these and operate off of these. Codex, latest 5.6 model, is not released as of yet, but they announced it. When the government releases that, it could be better than Opus, but Fable 5 is blocked by the government at the time of this video. That right there, when I was using it before it was blocked, was phenomenal. It was the best OS builder ever. Very high usage though, so keep that in mind. You will need to use Claude Code or Codex to develop this OS, which is going to basically just be a folder structure. That's all it is. It's a folder structure that lives typically under the user's file on your computer, or if you're using a VPS, and it starts with whatever your business name is. That's the top folder. So for my business, Common House, it's just Common House OS, and then everything lives under that. This right here is the starter kit that I recommend for all starts to an OS. Now, if you go to our Common House business, because we implement these fully customizable to the best of the best ability for your business needs, we showcase the foundation that we kind of feel like we branded of a universal system that works for every business model we use with clients. And there's a little bit more files in this one versus this starter kit I'm showing you. And I number everything starting with 00 all the way to 09. But this is a great starting place. If you want to expand upon it, you can always reach out to us, or you can even just use this. It's right here on my home page. You can probably get the gist of why certain files exist. We want to start with the home. That is the owner dashboard, essentially. Your hierarchy of everything's going on. A lot of high up performance can be stored there. A lot of your current tasks are stored there because Hermes does a great job of keeping track of action items. So think of the top level things that are more generic and broad. They need to be stored here in the home. Your agent's file is going to be arguably the more important file out of everything, because when you install your agent harness, this is the first file it reads. So it's completely going to be guardrailing the agent into certain things it can and cannot do, mainly things it needs to do and the context of it. And it also gives the guidance of, okay, once you read this file, you then go read the third file, the governance file, which is all of the things the AI cannot do. For our foundation, we have what's called red rules, which are elite rules that an AI agent can never ever do. One red rule we do a lot for clients is it can never send anything customer facing, so like an email or sending an invoice, without an approval gate. That right there is a red rule that gets stopped because you never know if a workflow will try to go against the rules within it, and that red rule should stop it. There's also just non-red rules, but are still important, that are just generic rules that you want to guide your AI based on whatever works for your business model. So governance is very important as well, because it's a lot of the guidelines of how an agent needs to know it can operate inside of this OS it's about to dive deep on. You got to think every new session that it starts is fresh mind. It reads the files it's told to, and then it's going off of whatever you're prompting it, whatever you're asking it. We talked about this already, but the brain is all of the business context. Your voice, your tonality, your brand guidelines when it comes to colors. If it's ever doing website work for you, you want to make sure it matches the rest of the existing website, right? These are all things that are going to be very specific to your business. So you need to make sure that you are giving it as much information about your business so it can operate fully to that level. I also put competitors in here, specifically competitors to every single product. If you want to take it another level, that's going to go a long way also. We talked about the brain. We also talked about the sources. Sources ties into the brain. That's where the truth lives. All your PDFs, all your procedures, everything that is needed, that is already in place of your business, that is a file or something that it can read off of for the brain, needs to be connected here in the sources. Workflows obviously is the repeated work. These are the most in-depth files that we are creating for a lot of clients because there's a lot of steps in here, especially for some complex workflows. If it's doing multiple different steps with multiple different tools, it needs multiple API keys. And shoot, you can even get workflows where different parts of the steps, they're using different LLMs. That's the beauty of an open source agent harness like Hermes, because you might want your most expensive model, let's just say Fable 5, to be the reviewer of the end job of the workflow because it's the smartest model. But you don't want Fable 5 doing the whole entire process, mainly because it's going to be killing your usage and your API token costs. So you might use a cheaper model like GPT 5.5 to do a lot of the rest of the process. There's a lot of different ways you can do with this, and that's why workflows are extreme in the most intuitive part of an OS. Proof we talked about also, but you want to make sure you build the proof for all of your logs and your receipts of everything that you get done. Now, this can be kind of confusing because I typically have the receipts under the workflows just for the workflows. So if we're posting social media, like I mentioned before, I have a receipt section under that workflow. So it's very clean. All the receipts hit just that, but you're going to find logs and receipts of more generic things. If you're going out and sending an agent to do deep research on a new target audience for some sort of pain awareness for a product that you sell, where do you save the research that was done? You're going to save it here in the proof. Server room is exactly what it sounds like, the server room. Some of these workflows and automations we use have Python scripts in place for it, and you want to make sure all those Python scripts or anything that is being used like an API is stored here in the server room. And the server room is really where it's going to pull all of the automation that is necessary for a lot of workflows right here. So this is where I would start. You can always expand upon this, customize what works for your business, but this is the best way to get going. Now you still may be asking, I want to get started, Noah. I get it. I need to use Claude Code or ChatGPT, and I got to start building out the OS. It will build the folders with you with the markdown files. Where do I get started? Well, first things first, I would download this video to a transcript, like a TXT file, and upload it to whatever you're about to do so it can read this video and actually learn from it and utilize it. It's one of the best and easiest ways that I develop a lot of things, is just downloading hour-long podcasts, plopping them into GPT or Claude and building off of what kind of they talked about. But this prompt is very simple, but we'll get things started. Build me a business AIOS folder structure for my company. Include the owner dashboard, the agent rules, the source library, the first workflow, the approval gates, and proof log. Ask me for missing business details before inventing anything. If it's a top-end model like Opus or GPT 5.5, it's going to ask you a ton of questions, or it should be, and you need to answer those as in-depthly as possible, because that is going to be where you need to take the most time. Building this out is very important. Take your time with it. Don't expect to do it all in one day. Shoot, I am working on the OS for our business for Common House probably 1 to 2 hours per day, building things, fixing things, editing things, overall just making it better, more ironclad. And I notice the agents operate better as I progressively do that. So this is a really good starter prompt. It's nothing fancy. It doesn't need to be, because you want it to start asking questions, and then it will know how to develop and get started on things. You should now know how to install an OS for you and why it's important to have an OS. But then you might be asking, and this is for another video, but what are we doing with this OS? I understand the concept of it, Noah, but I don't understand how things operate. And that's where Hermes Agent comes in. At the time of this video, this is by far the best agent harness you can really get. And there's really only two. There's OpenClaw and Hermes Agent. I have come from OpenClaw for a couple months, and let me tell you, the difference in Hermes Agent is insane, mainly because of its memory functionality. It is like an actual employee for your business. It has memory. It stores things. If you just message it and you say, oh, can you not use capital letters when you respond to me? It will memorize that, and it will start doing that. If you're using a regular ChatGPT, it doesn't do that. It doesn't make any changes. And that's why Hermes Agent is so phenomenal, because it memorizes and works like it's an employee for your business. And you have to think about it like that. That's why you need to give the OS as much information. If you hired somebody to be your social media manager, what tools do they need to succeed? What do they need to learn about the business to succeed? Ask yourself this as you're building workflows for your agent harness, because it's the same thing. It's going to need everything an actual person would need. It can't just poof things out without actual context. Context is the name of the game. It's the most powerful thing that you can learn how to utilize to better harnesses for your business. And the beautiful thing about Hermes Agent, and I'm going to dive deep into this in the next video, but it lives and breathes where your business is. It's not in a Claude Code. It's not in a terminal. It can be, but it's where you work. So it could be in Microsoft Teams. It could be in Slack. It could be in Discord, which is where I use mine. It could be in Telegram, WhatsApp, and now even iMessage, and they're always expanding it. So you got to think it can work where your business is. If you use Slack for your business, it will work in there. You will chat with it in there. You will give it permissions for certain channels it can read, or all permissions for all channels it can read, whatever the case may be, but it will work with you. So you don't have to think of like, oh, is this a SaaS I have to download something? No, No, it just goes where you are already working. I, for example, use my Hermes Agent mainly on my Discord, but then I also have Telegram because that's my main texting app that I have it send me daily morning chats that really summarize what was done yesterday, what we have to finish today or this week, and then also what tokens were used. How's our usage going for the week? Because I want to track that stuff. And honestly, being able to maintain that is going to be another professional skill that operators using Harness need to learn how to do, because API is going to be even more expensive come a year from now. So now you should know what an OS is, why an OS is important, what you need to do to build out yours for your business, what Agent Harness is, and how you're going to install it, which is Hermes. And that right there should be the steps necessary to at least get started. One thing I always tell clients, when you train your Hermes Agent, it will fix things for you. Do not be afraid that you have to know all the answers, because you don't. You can ask it as you build things. In fact, I use mine all the time for strategic thinking on how to make the OS better, more efficient. And I use it as if I'm bouncing ideas off of another person in the room with me. And you will start to see, because the intelligence is there for these top end frontier LLMs, that it will do things for you based off of like brainstorming sessions. So you got to treat it that way. But in theory, the reason why we do all of this, a OS and an agent harness, is because we wanted to automate portions of our business. And that's where the workflows come into play. So to end this video, I want to just quickly go through a workflow loop of what really happens. And you can just understand as we go through this briefly, the context of the OS is what's going to make this flourish. So a new lead is one of the most common workflows that we install for all of our clients, because it's something that really a lot of people don't want to handle themselves. They just want it automated. So a new lead fills out a form on your website. They hit your inbox or you get notified. That's the trigger that starts the workflow. The agent harness should already have an automation where it's looking for this. And when it sees it, it starts the workflow. It then goes and reads the sources it needs to. The workflow will have rules in place. So it says, hey, go read the rules of this workflow and go read the brand voice, how to draft emails, and then it has the context necessary. So once it has that, it drafts the work. Well, according to the workflow markdown file, I know I needed to take this lead and log it into a CRM. Let's just say you're using HubSpot or Salesforce. It will log it in there through API. And number two, go do brief research on the company that filled out the form so I know a little bit more about them. So it will log what it found on it, and then it will draft an email response to get things started, because we all know in the world of lead forms, we want to get responses to these people as fast as possible. If they filled out a form, we should be trying to book a demo call ASAP. Agent Harnesses is going to help us get there faster and with better quality of information to give better context. So then it's going to draft the email. Then, like I mentioned before, an approval gate comes to me. So all of this is done in the back end. And then all of a sudden on my Slack, I get a chat, and it's from my Hermes agent. It says, new lead, here's the person, here's what they asked in the message box. This is the information about the company that I found in a brief, 3 to 4 sentences. I already logged them in the CRM, and here's my drafted response that I think we should send to them. Do you approve? It already did everything in the back end. You didn't even know it was doing it. It did it, and it's just letting you know. And if you need changes to the email, you make changes. If not, you approve. It sends the email through API, through Gmail or Outlook, whatever, and then it logs the receipt like we talked about in the workflow. And then number 6, this is the one, because typically the workflow ends here at 5, but number 6 is where you improve this loop in theory. You want to make sure it's making better adjustments. Let's just say right here in number 3, when it's out drafting the emails, it's not really writing it how you like. It's a little bit too AI sloppy. You want to make sure you're giving it context. Like, hey, I think there's a little bit too much slop. You're using too many M dashes. You're just using language that I would never use. And let's improve upon this. Give examples of what you mean by that, so it can then go and change the files in number 2. So then the next session that it gets, it reads, it's going to have different language to pull for the email. That's how you improve the loop, and then you get better versions as you go. 99% of the time when we build out workflows, they need to be approved upon ASAP, because we find kinks along the way and we find areas to make them more optimal. And because of that, you need to be comfortable with your agent harness and talking through with it and having it improve itself. I hope this video really helps and gets the understanding of what an OS is, what an agent harness can do with the right sources and right context, and how you need to start doing this for your business. Every single business model out there can benefit from this. And this is the future. You're going to see businesses, even your competitors, that are mastering this as we speak, and they're going to have an edge. You won't be able to do things more efficiently and faster than an agent harness can if it's built correctly. I myself run Common House, where I implement this for a living into businesses. What I know works universally for all other clients, and I customize it based on what the business needs. Now, what I am selling as a service is what I am using as a user. The same system I'm selling is the same system that is running this business essentially. I run Common House with just me and my co-founder in a gazillion workflows with a gazillion agents, and it is efficient. The future of multi-million-dollar businesses being ran by only a handful of people is here because of agent harnesses. So if this is the worst they're ever going to be right now, I can only imagine not even a year, 6 months from now, how much better they will be if on the right context. Think about that. The point of this video is to understand what an operating system is. They cannot poof things into existence unless you give it the necessary requirements and understanding of how your business works. You know your business better than anyone else. You need to understand that. So you need to help relay that information so you can have the best employee working for you. And with that being said, I really hope you gathered information from this and you can learn from this. Please hit the thumbs up. It goes such a long way. I do believe the kind of information I'm providing for people on agent harnesses, there's not many people doing it like this. And I want to get the word out there to help businesses be more efficient, more cost effective, and to get better output. That's the ultimate goal here. Comment as well if you have any questions, didn't understand portions, because a lot of this can be confusing and I don't want it to be confusing. I'm always helping people in the DMs, so feel free to message me there as well. And once again, this is part 1 of an 8-part series that should get you from start to finish of a fully running agent harness inside your business. This is going to be one of the bulkier videos out of the 8, but it's the most important because of the operating system. So if you want to continue on, the second video to this series, I will have linked, and you can watch it there and continue on building the best agent harness for your business.